On the line with me are two gentlemen from Louisiana. Played with Lou Brock on the Southern University baseball team. At the time, they were in the NAIA conference. And on the line with us are two Southern Jaguars. One is Jim Maryland, and one is Mr. Ed Woods. In 1959, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics baseball champion was a group of guys from Southern University down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Were you guys in the SWAC at that time, Mr. Maryland?
We always been in SWAC.
Yes. So, gentlemen, I would like you guys to kind of give us a little introduction to yourself. Then tell us about who you are and what part you played on the Southern Jaguar baseball team during that period.
Okay, yeah.
I came to Southern University to play football, but then I found out in the spring they had a football team, and they'd had many guys who had already, the school had graduated. They were kind of starting over. So I met Brock and some of the guys who they were a sophomore, I was a freshman, and we had some guys playing diverse positions, but we were to put together a good team and win the conference, and consequently, the athletic director, also the head baseball coach, I guess put the application in to enter the NAIA tournament. To my understanding, a black team had never entered the tournament. And as far as I could see, very few guys who played baseball in college were able to play in the NAIA tournament, so that made it significant. And we had a decent team, a lot of good ball players, and of course, Rocky Bishop became the outstanding ball player amongst us at that time. Went on to some outstanding things as a professional baseball player.
My name is James Maryland. Nickname, many nicknames. Most of the guys at Southern University call me Bear. Now, unlike Ed Woods and some of the other NAIA champions that year, I was still a senior in high school at that time. I came to Southern University the fall of 1959, of course. They had already won the championship that spring. And, of course, I walked on and made the team, got a full scholarship. And that's where I met Ed Woods as one of my close friends. And then, of course, Lou Brock were on that team. And really was an honor to make, to make the team. We had sometimes 125 boys coming out for the team. But Coach only took a few guys, and very few of the guys that were walk-on ever got any scholarship. So through the help of Buck O'Neill, who was a scout for the Chicago Cubs, he saw us practice one day in the gymnasium. It was too cold to practice outside, and he saw me throwing the ball as a pitcher. And he encouraged my coach, Robert Lee, to give me a full scholarship. Well, he encouraged him to take me on the team. And that's where my tenure started with Southern University baseball. Of course, we won the SWAC championship also in 1960. Southern University had some real skilled players. And some of the boys never even came out for baseball. I never really made the team. Was just as good as those that were playing out there. If you recall, it was segregated back in that day in the South, and that was in Louisiana. You couldn't play at LSU. You couldn't play at Louisiana Tech, and you couldn't play at Louisiana at Monroe. You couldn't play at those schools, so you would play at either Grambling, at Southern, the two major black schools in Louisiana. And that's how I got a chance to get to know Ed Woods and Lou Brock. And I'm originally born in Shreveport, Louisiana, but bred up in Ruston, Louisiana, and attended Lincoln High School there. I graduated from Lincoln High School.
And you, now, Mr. Woods, I know you say you are now in Louisiana. Now you're from Louisiana. I mean, you're in Indiana.
I live in Indianapolis, but I'm from Anderson, Indiana.
Oh, you're from Indiana. Okay.
Yes, sir.
How did you end up at Southern?
Well, I went in. I got a high school in the Army, and at that time, wasn't a whole lot of scholarships in Indiana, around the country, that matter, for black guys to play baseball or even football in many cases. I went in the Army after 3 years. I played against some guys that had gone to various teams in SWAC, and particularly Grambling and Texas Southern. And I wrote the coach a long-hand letter like I was leave Germany. When I got home, they give me a full scholarship. I'd never laid eyes on the coach or anybody else. Never had any personal contact. But at that time, the rules about guys coming to scholarships and all this kind of thing was a lot different. And got there, played football, and then we went on to baseball. Which at that time we won the SWAC, but also we won the SWAC, come back the next year, won the national tournament. And came back the next year, 1960, won the SWAC again, and also come in second and third in the national tournament. It was just by 1 or 2 pitches from winning again.
Okay, so you guys are all ready to go back to the national tournament for the following few years, right?
Went back 1960, went back, and first year we was in a place called Southern University, Texas, way out past San Antonio. And kind of funny feeling, there were only black people out there, had a few Mexicans back when we were. But we won that tournament. Next year we went to Sioux City, Iowa. And we done well with just that. I think this time people were kind of looking for us because we probably ran by speed on the bases and playing real baseball. At that time we had 2 coaches that were excellent coaches. I think they didn't coach anywhere and been successful with the ball players, but we were able to. There was a lot of scouting. The year we went, when I was a freshman, we went out to Texas. When you're warming up, you have guys come out and then scouts come out and watch the guys. And there was a guy he was highly rated as a catcher from a place called Wallace College down in Florida. And when the game started, these guys suddenly they ended up signing him. When the game started, in the course of the game, I think we stole 7 bases on. This guy was one of the top prospects, and we probably cost him a lot of money that day. And the national record was only about 3, and we stole 7 in one game.
Yeah. Do you know who you played against to win the championship? You know the team you played?
We won in 69. No, in 59. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
59. We played. And then we beat Southern Illinois twice. One of the teams from Southern Kansas. I
think it was University of Omaha. That's who you guys beat. Yeah, you beat them.
Probably was. I don't know. It's been a while,
Yeah, right. That's why I asked. Yeah.
Over the years, I've run into these guys playing semi-pro ball who played in them tournaments and things, So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, when you got it. Well, what you said, little Brock was on your all team. What was your relation with him? Did you have a relationship with him after college? While in college?
Yeah, well, during the time when I was, the 2 years that he and I were together, I had a very close relationship with him every day and certainly every weekend. And after college, after he signed, I finished up my degree at Southern University. And then when I got out of college and moved to Chicago, he was with the Cubs, and we got traded before the season started. And 64. We got traded. And then I moved to St. Louis, took a job in St. Louis, and I was talking to him about it every day. In fact, he had 2 children, younger children, took part in the program I was over the facility I was in charge of.
Well, my relationship, this is Jim Maryland, with Brock, coming in as a freshman pitcher, I would observe Brock. Brock would oftentimes daydream. He looked like he was always in deep thought. And, of course, Brock was so fast on the base, he didn't really know how to run bases at the time. And Brock would overrun the base. If he was still in second base, instead of Brock sliding in safely, Brock would stand up. If the ball wasn't there, Brock would keep going. And oftentimes would get thrown out on his way to the next base. And Coach would have a big problem with that. And oftentimes he would embarrass Brock. I remember one time we were playing Prairie View College out in Prairie View, Texas. And somehow Brock rounded second base, and the coach waved him on to third to hold him up at third base, but Brock wouldn't stop. Brock started home plate and got thrown out. So that was the last out for that inning, and the Coach Lee came from the first base side over to the third base side where Coach Hines was. And Coach Hines' first name was Emery. Coach Lee said, Emery, did you try to stop the lad? And Coach Hines told him, said, Bob, his name was Robert Lee, Bob, I did everything but throw a lasso on him. Try to stop him. Hell, the only way I could have stopped him was throw a lasso. And that was a big laugh. But then that really perturbed Brock. Brock got real angry about that. And when he get angry, a lot of times, wherever I was sitting, here he comes, whispering in my ear, man, I'm told you, I'm not coming back here next year. I'm not going to come back here and play ball. I thought he was playing. But Brock left, and he never came back to Southern. But that was after his junior year.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And also my relationship with Brock, Brock in the advanced ROTC program. And Brock was my platoon leader at Southern in ROTC. Brock and I had a close relationship. And when things would trouble him, I know we went to Wiley College over in Marshall, Texas, to play ball one weekend, Southern University against Wiley. And there was a big dance going on. We lived in a little dormitory above the gym. And I could hear this music. The boys were getting ready. They all left, going where they were going to go. I was left in the room. I thought I was the last one to leave because I was peculiar about my dress. I wanted to make sure I was sharp. And as soon as I got ready to leave the room, I heard someone, hey, Jim. They called me back. Hey, Honey Bear. That's what Brock would call me. Hey, you got a minute, man? I said, hey, Brock, I got to go to the dance, man. What do you want? He said, man, son, I want to talk to you. And that Bob was in one of those depressive states. And he would oftentimes be in my ear during those times. And Brock had a lot of personal problems that people didn't realize. And he would vent them to me. And I would listen to him. But he was somebody's ball player. I mean, and then Brock was a nice guy, and he was very quiet. He never raised his voice even so. He did his talking with that baseball bat and on those bases. Brock was a good guy. He was a good guy, good friend. And then, of course, I met him. I got a job when I graduated. Brock had been signed by the Cubs, Buck O'Neill. When Brock quit Southern, after his junior year, Brock left Louisiana and went to Chicago. And he got him a job with the YMCA Hotel. That's where Brock was working. All that baseball talent was going to waste. Somehow, Buck O'Neill, the scout from the Cubs, caught up with Brock and signed him. And it was history after that. Of course, he didn't have the best stay at the Cubs because he'd come by and pick me up on the weekends, and I'd go to the game with him. And Brock was still daydreaming out in that outfield, being jeered by the Cubs fans. They didn't care for Brock. And I asked Brock, I said, Brock, what is the problem? He said, Jim, one problem. Well, he called me Honey Bear. He said, Honey Bear, I don't know who to take my instructions from. He said, one baseball coach would tell me one thing, the other one would tell me another. It just kept me confused. So I was so glad when he left and went to St. Louis, and he had some black teammates that wrapped their arms around him. Bill White was one of the guys. He had a lot of respect for Bill. And then there was Kurt Flood. These guys just wrapped their arms around Brock, and Brock really blossomed from that.
Yeah, he was there in St. Louis with some great guys. Bob Gibson, who we just lost too. We just lost Bob Gibson not long ago as well. But yeah, that's you're absolutely right. When he got down to St. Louis, and that's sometimes all you need is a nurturing environment, and you could do quite a bit with yourself. Yeah. So
well, I think Brock liked that big brother father image too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and of course, if you want to hear a guy laugh, you let Brock get in the midst of us, his friends. I remember one time Ed Woods, who was director of the Woodlawn Chicago Boys Club. At that time, it was called the Woodlawn Boys Club. It wasn't Boys and Girls Club like it is now. And of course, Woods had Brock to come up and do his speech at his annual fundraising dinner. And Woods brought up Harry Levy, who was one of our teammates at Southern. And when we all got together that night, oh, man, Brock laughed so much. He loved to laugh. And he had himself so much fun with the reunion of his teammates. That was Tolly East, Ed Woods, Harry Levy, and Jim Maryland, myself. We all got together that night, and we had a lot of fun.
Okay, well, anything else you guys want to talk about that great Southern team? Anything else you want to say about that championship team? I understand that was the first time that an all Black American team had won anything outside of the conferences champions, but that was the first time they ever became a national champion.
Well, the first time we ever entered the tournament, and I don't know about the first time. Baseball was kind of I think there's certain things they give you basketball, they give you track, but they don't want to give you baseball. Baseball is not necessarily our game it is now. At that time, we played the game where it's supposed to be played, using your ability, speed, and good coaching, and some guys could play,
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you recall, going back to the old days of the Negro Baseball League, basketball was integrated, football was integrated, and, man, they held off baseball.
Yeah, for a long time. You're absolutely right. Yep.
They held off baseball. What coach was that made the statement about when they had brought in black players in the league? What did he say, Cheatham? Do you remember that?
No, not offhand. Tell me.
Okay, one of the managers or the coaches or somewhere from one of the baseball teams said that now that they have integrated baseball,
yeah,
a lot of these white boys are going to be looking for a job.
Yeah.
And he was telling the truth,
That's right, and that's exactly right. Until now, the boys out of the Dominican, they taking over the colleges and the pros.
Well, see, the problem with baseball now, you don't have anybody in the black neighborhoods can teach baseball. You don't have that many guys.
Very few people.
You get somebody to handle basketball. You can take one basketball and entertain 30 kids all day. Baseball, you got to get to the field, you got to get the bats and balls out there, and it's very not difficult, but it's different than when you're setting up coaching basketball and encouraging kids to play.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is that the kids say the game is too slow.
Yeah.
Okay? And, we love track. Anything that's fast, we love it.
Yeah.
You don't see many of the American track stars back in the day running the distant races. But the sprints, they try to sprint up.
Right.
Okay? And they love basketball. Michael Jordan kind of revolutionized basketball in America among black kids.
Right.
We have guys 5'7" think that they can make the pros every day.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
true.
the thing is that baseball is slow, and it's not really promoted like it was when we were kids.
Yeah.
I'm 79 years old. Ed, I don't know how old you are.
I'm 84.
And I don't know how old Cheatham is.
That ain't your business.
But anyway, well, probably older than Black Pepper. Probably won't give us that red or Black Pepper. That's the reason for that. But anyway, the thing is that the game, that was the one game that everybody loved, white and black. Back in the day, back in the 50s, the late 40s, I mean, people would just crowd the baseball parks down. They wasn't interested in no football game like they are basketball game like they were baseball.
Well, see, football and basketball wasn't available with the black community like baseball was.
Okay.
That's what made the Negro League so popular. And, you know, at one time, the Negro League, the Satchel Paige and many of the other guys, they were getting paid and drawing big crowds. And the professional baseball, besides that, they used to play in the wintertime, and they beat the Major League teams from the then was the not Jeremiah, the head of baseball, we got Landis. He decided you stop playing. You don't have too much embarrassment. You start beating the big time ball players, and they would make all that money and all the publicity of black guys running out of the park.
Mm-hmm. He's talking about the commissioner of baseball back then.
Yeah, Landis.
Yeah. There was a lot of racism in the game. There was a lot of racism, you know.
Well, yeah, go right on.
Back in the 60s, there was a lot of guys who played in the Negro League still living in Chicago. See, Joe Jessup, known as Jeep, Jeep just died about 2 years ago, Jimmy.
Okay.
But he was a big-time pitcher in the Negro League back there. He pitched a lot of time against Satchel Paige, all these guys. You know, he was an outstanding pitcher. He was still coming to the ballpark way back after he got their third batting practice. He was way in his 60s then.
Well, Jeep had almost be 100 years old when he passed away.
He had been 91 too. One of my sons looked it up a week or two ago. He died down in Carolina, Missouri, somewhere where wasn't sure, but he played a long time and was decent.
Now, Mr. Cheatham, Lou Brock wasn't the only guy that played on that Southern University 59 team that could have, played a good game of pro ball.
Yeah.
But, of course, they were going to only let a few people from areas get into the league. Okay, and it was fortunate. Lou Brock made it. And then another kid from down here in Louisiana, Ruston, Louisiana, my cousin, Ralph Goff. Ralph made it. In high school, Lincoln High School, there were a lot of Ralph guys that played on that Lincoln High School team with him. Of course, there was a lot of guys that played semi-pro ball in Louisiana, in eastern Louisiana, or northern Louisiana, that could have made the pro ranks. We had quite a few guys sign pro contracts, but they knew from the get-go that they wasn't going to, those boys, they weren't going to let them go anywhere.
They took him down there for to round out the roster and have somebody to practice against.
Right, in those minor league towns. And those teams in the minor leagues, they just, used the guys. Those guys had high hopes to go, but very few of them were going to go anywhere. And they knew that. And they knew they were going to cut so many of those guys once the season was over. Yeah. We had quite a few guys off our baseball team that signed pro contracts, okay? And most of the guys that were sensible went on and took a job, a regular professional job when they left Southern or when they graduated, rather than fool around with baseball. Yeah. Because most of the guys that signed pro contracts, many of them hadn't graduated. They were signed before they graduated, and then they had to come back to school. They weren't eligible to play in the SWAC, play college baseball, so here they were, just stuck. And they didn't get any sizable sum of money as signing bonuses.
If you don't get no bonus money, they're not really interested in you. So that's just a rule of thumb.
Yeah. I noticed that on a picture that I got from you, Mr. Maryland, Lou Brock, 105th stolen base, right?
Right.
And I noticed these guys on this team. There's several of you now. That all of you guys played with Lou, who's on there, or you guys were just part of?
No, not everybody that was on that picture played with Lou. We were all friends, and we were all baseball players except for one guy. One guy was a Southernite, but he was a football player.
Okay.
He came out for baseball, but he didn't make the team. That was Joe Brown on that. Then you had the East boys, Charles and Robert East. Robert East had a scholarship to Southern, but he went on and signed with the Washington Senators, okay, prior to coming to college.
I got you.
And then you had M.C. Johnson that was on that picture. M.C. attended college in a SWAC program up at Pine Bluff,
Arkansas State. Yeah.
Pine Bluff, Arkansas. It was called Arkansas A&M at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Arkansas Pine Bluff now. Okay. He was on there, and there was some other guys. You saw a guy there, Mac Gray Griffin, the fair-skinned guy standing out front with his legs all spread.
Yeah.
He's from Baton Rouge, but he lives out in Oakland, California. And he had the winningest record of any guy that ever played at Southern.
I think he lost one. He lost one game in 4 years.
Yes.
That's including national tournaments as well as the regular season.
Now he signed a pro contract, but he never really made it to the big show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a guy named Quincy Mason on there, on that picture. Quincy signed. He never made it to the big show. That was Harry Levy. Harry Levy signed. He never made it to the big show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and of course I told you about Robert East. Many of the guys never made it to the big show. Okay, the one guy that played at the time we played that really had an opportunity, he was right at the brink of going all the way to the major club, was Lee Green.
Lee Otis Green.
Okay, Lee Green played with the Baltimore Orioles. But at the time Lee Green played, they had some of the best outfielders of all baseball, and he couldn't break that lineup. And they didn't trade him. Had they traded him to another team, he would have made the big show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm looking at you guys here, and it's really, I'm very pleased that I was able to get a chance to talk to the two of you today. And you guys went to Southern because you couldn't go to Jackson State.
Couldn't go to Jackson. Couldn't go to Jackson State.
Ed, he's from Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh,
he was raised up. He was raised up in a little old hick town. One of those.
Do you know Danny Smith?
Who?
Danny Smith played third base for Jackson State.
No.
We don't know Danny.
You know, they sent him to Chicago.
I was at Southern for 4 years. Jackson State never won a baseball game against us, and the 4 years I played football, the 2 years I played football, Jackson State never beat us. That's when Willie Richards and Johnston, all of them there.
I shouldn't have opened that up. I shouldn't have said nothing about that.
Well, they probably still soft at whooping you put on, you know.
Look here, Coach John Mary, Big John was the football coach down there then.
Oh yeah.
Cheatham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry said,
it was
come on out for football. Well, Cheatham wore about a size 13 shoe, and he was a big-boned boy. But Cheatham looked at some of those boys. He got scared. They said that he hid from Big John Mary for about a whole month because he thought John was going to make him play football.
Yeah.
Mr. Cheatham, what year was you at Jackson State?
I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. I didn't go to state. I am from Jackson all of my life, so I was born and raised there. So you know.
And he heard about Southern University, and he went in the Army.
Yeah. And Mickey Jordan, the National Guard won.
And he thought he had a better chance in the Army than to get bruised up on that football.
Yeah. See them Cooley brothers left in South up in Jackson during that time. I know you know them Cooley brothers, don't you?
Oh yeah, the Cooley boy. Oh yeah, Richardson and Cooley boy. Hey, that was a team, man. That 1962 team. Oh, man,
Yeah.
that was a
It was football or basketball? Baseball, man.
Football.
We beat Jackson like he stole something. Now, I tell you one thing about it, though. When you play Jackson, so we lose 60,000 at the downtown stadium in Baton Rouge. Because Jackson is probably the closest team in the SWAC to Southern University in distance.
Oh, yeah, it's always, we can always do a pretty good crowd wherever we go. That's about it, yeah.
They started coming up early Friday morning, and we got ready. We always get ready for them whip like we stole something.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm
going to get Cheatham. You boys got bruised up.
Well, we know. That's wrong with that. We put a limit on and we going about our business. We come right back.
We sent our basketball team down there, and Southern University didn't have the best basketball team. And you guys, the whole stadium jumped on Big John Brown and his boys.
Whooped the team, whooped the coach. That was bad. He was still swinging up 2 days later.
So John Brown came back to Southern. You guys, I don't know why you did him like that. Yeah.
That's just the way it goes, I guess, sometimes, you know.
You remember the high school Jim Hill High?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jim Hill.
We went to play baseball against Jackson, and somehow they were having a spring football game. Mm-hmm. And we went over to Jim Hill High, and we were all sitting in the stands. And I think one of our guys, Robert Williams, we call him Speedy, from Fort Pierce, Florida. He was a halfback on the football team, and he was in the left field on the baseball team. And Speedy was bragging, teasing one of the high school players. Evidently, this high school player was a high-profile kid. Because he had like 7 letters on his jacket. And Speedy was teasing him. Man, look, we looked up. The entire stadium was running Speedy back to the dormitory. And when you said Speedy, you were thinking that, who was that boy that ran track at Grambling Ed that was running against Aaron Sutton?
Stone Johnson.
Stone Johnson and the boy down there at Florida A&M and up at Tennessee A&I. Yeah. None of those guys could have caught Speedy that night. The whole team. And I sat and I ran with the people from Jackson. They thought I was from Jackson. Hell, I wasn't going to run. I didn't take off running like the Southern Knights. Let them run. I got the boys from Jackson. I ran in the Jackson crowd. And when I got to the dormitory, I locked up and went to bed, man.
See, Mr. Cheatham, the bottom line in baseball, football, and everything else, you'll never see a group of guys accomplishing things that they did in Southern in places like Grambling and Jackson State. Yes. Too many people ask these ball players now. You think a kid he's halfway decent, well, he's going to Mississippi State or somewhere. He's going to LSU. He's going somewhere.
Right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all both for this wonderful opportunity to talk about a greater piece of American history, you know, the fabric of this great country of ours. And we're not immigrants. We're all Americans, you know. So I want to thank you guys very much.